Hello everyone, and welcome to the second round of the SRL Formula One World Champion. My name is Sam, and I am going to be your commentator for today's Grand Prix. And what a race we have in store here today. The first round in Australia was one cracking race. It was absolutely insane with all of the stories that came out of that round, I want to say. There were a few upsets. There were a little bit of controversy every now and then, but in general, it was a pretty decent race, I would say. And I definitely do hope that you agree. So today we continue this championship, and it is, as I said, here at Bahrain at Sakir International Circuit. We're going to have 29 laps of great racing in the desert night, and it's going to be quite exciting, I think. I think it's going to be quite good. I'm definitely looking forward to it. And drivers are slowly but surely joining. If everything goes according to plan, we are actually set for a full grid today. There are a few reserves, and we are going to go through them in a moment, but hopefully we can have all 20 grid slots filled out today. And some of the usual suspects, as you can see here, Sandro Dulis for Scuderia Ferrari. As usual, you want to say he is back, and his teammate Dion Stahl has just joined. He is in the other Ferrari here today. Then we have Alexis Koivuniemi back again for Alpine. Did his first race for the French outfit in Australia. And he is joined by his teammate, who is actually his teammate here today. And that is, of course, Max Mulder, the Dutchman, who has had a very good start to the racing season so far in the GT3 series. So hopefully he can carry that momentum over to the Formula One series. George Wilkes back again for Aston Martin, and the same goes for Tim Ventink in one of the Red Bulls. And his partner in crime will be Nick van Gelder in the other Red Bull. The two Dutchmen are going to be looking to see if they can upset the rest of the grid. Tim showed a lot of good pace actually in Australia, so yeah, hopefully he can convert it into a potential podium or even victory today. And then we have Nicolo Falsaresi, who's going to be driving for Williams once again. Hopefully he will be partnering up with his teammate Jamie Jägerström, who might be joining soon. Then we have Ivan Brito in the Mercedes. He is joined by his teammate Jerome Aramaco, who came very close actually in the first race to winning, but due to penalties he was not able to retain that victory. Freya Bile is going to be back in the McLaren once again, the Ethiopian, substituting for Jensen Randall last time out, but for this round it is instead of Christian Dorman, because Jensen Randall, the reigning world champion, is back again, and it's going to be really good to see him, see what he can do. And then we have one of our first reserves, and I do need to pull up a list over the reserves because I can't actually remember all of them. And this is one of the new guys, so if you will excuse me for a short moment, I will figure out who this is, because I'm not 100% sure, as a matter of fact. Just a quick second. It is it is Jack Rich, who is going to be competing for Haas here today, so hopefully he can do well. I'm pretty sure this is his first race as well, so all the best to him. Then we have David Russo, who came away from last weekend with the race victory. That is definitely something you would want to check out if you haven't already. And then in the V-Carb, we have Pablo Bas, who's going to be competing instead of Jesper Lempinen here today. Luke Smith is going to be taking the reins of the second Williams instead of Jägerström. So he will be partnering up with Falsaresi to see if they can do something. And in the other V-Carb, it is the return of Thodoris Samanidis. And the Greek driver, he had a pretty decent showing last time out, so hopefully he can do pretty well. We already talked about Dion. He's back again. And then we have, this is Louis Quinlan, who, according to my notes, is set to substitute for Noel Rosso Abia at Kick Sauber. So we'll see if that comes to anything. Hopefully it does. It would be a shame if he had to sit it out. And we do have some questions on the live chat, and that is always good. I'm going to be following as much as I possibly can on the live chat during the race. And someone asked, who do I think will win? And that is a very good question, because I think today we are going to see potentially 4 people going for the victory, if you ask me. And that is going to be Red Bull's Tim Venting, who showed, as I said, a lot of pace last time out. He was really, really solid. Unfortunately, penalties did play a big part in him not being able to fully cement himself into the top fight. So that was a real shame. Then I think you can't rule him out. Jensen Randall, the reigning champion, 4-time champion, you have to say that he is probably going to be someone who's going to be fighting at the front. And then I think Jerome Adamaco, we saw him last time out. Again, penalties was the only undoing of his race result in the end. And then David Russo, I don't think you can count him out. He was a very solid runner in last week's proceedings. So definitely do think that those are the 4 people that we are going to be looking at potentially for the race victory. But I wouldn't be surprised, if we're being totally honest, if someone like Freya Bile or even Nicolo Falsaresi or Sandra Dooley's for that matter could be challenging for a potential victory. But we will see. It is time for qualifying here in the Bahraini desert. And who will take top honors here today? So we are just shortly going to get into qualifying. Obviously a track that a lot of people know. This is obviously in real life has played the season opener for quite a couple of years. It's also the venue for pre-season testing in Formula 1. So this is a track that most people are very familiar with. And obviously that one year we had 2 races around this venue. One around the normal track and then a second race the following week on what is in broader terms known as the Oval. But that is obviously not something we're going to be doing here today. But let's see. We are ready here today and we have 19 drivers today. So that is very, very good. And obviously for qualifying, I didn't do this last time. I didn't put the lap timer on. That is my mistake. But we are definitely going to be putting that on. And should we see? What should we have on? I think this is okay for now. But at the moment, people just slowly but surely waiting it out. We see there's a bit of activity. There's a V-Carb going out. Let's see who that is. That might be... If I'm not mistaken, that is Pablo Bas. Let's see if we can find him. It's right there, the Spaniard. So he's going to be the first guy out on track here. And there is something to be a little bit cautious about. There's been a lot of talks leading into this Grand Prix. This specific corner, you don't want to track extend on the exit here, because there is a potential bug that could be race ending, unfortunately, that sends you high and wide. But Pablo Bas in the V-Carb, first man out on the grid. We see a couple of other drivers, Dion Stahl, Jensen Randall, Max Mulder and Falsaresi are also making it out on track. Rich as well in the Haas on his outlap as well. And people are obviously going to be looking to dial in both setups but also tyre strategies. We could potentially, according to what I've heard, we might be looking at potential two-stop strategy here today, being the fastest strategy. So that is going to throw things up in the air, and that's going to make it a little bit more exciting. Potential three-stopper as well, if we have a couple of safety cars, which is not uncommon around this track, so we'll see. But Pablo Bas comes out of the final corner. He starts his first flying lap. Let's see what the Spaniard could do into turn 1, heavy braking zone, and then turn 2 and 3 a little bit wide there is obviously the traction zone. Yellow flag in sector 3, that is just people slowing down to avoid being slowed up. Into turn 4, let's see what the Spaniard can do here. A little bit of a wobble on the entry there, so it's not going to be the fastest lap time. Through the middle sector here, this tricky middle sector, downhill all the way, and then probably what is the most tricky corner on the track, this heavy braking zone into the hairpin here. Doesn't hit the apex perfectly, but that's okay. It is his installation lap. You could call it his banker lap. And then up the hill here, it runs very close to track limits there. But it is still quite good. And then this fast left-right. Obviously he's setting purple sectors. He is the first car out on track, so that does only make sense. We're just going to have it ready here. Let's see. Coming through the final corner, what is it going to be for Pablo Bas? It's going to be a very modest 129. Let's cut to Max Mulder here. Next guy who crosses the line, he has invalidated it, would seem. So he's not going to be posting any fast laps. Meanwhile, I do believe that Dion Stahl, Jack Rich goes P3, Falsaresi goes P1 for now. Jensen Randall absolutely smashes it. I don't think that's the fastest we're going to see. We haven't quite hit it yet. I think Aramako is about to come around the final corner here for his first flying lap. Let's see what the German can do. He's on course for a 127.1, so he bests Jensen Randall for now. Meanwhile, we have more people crossing the line. Let's see if we can find Tim Ventink. He's on a flying lap as well. Samanides goes P3. Quinlan goes P7. So lap times are still quite high, I want to say. Nick van Gelder in sector 1 had a bit of an off, it seems. Let's see what the number 42 Red Bull can do here. Tim Ventink through the final couple of turns. A little bit of a lock up there. We have a yellow flag in sector 1. That's just one of the Kick Saubers, who are currently sitting P8 and P9. That might change with Ventink coming out of the final corner here. Let's see what the Dutchman can produce. And he goes P3 for now. So behind Jensen Randall, but in front of Samanides, only by a couple of tenths so far. Let's see. Who do we find here? Let's cut to Freya Bile, currently on a fast lap, the Ethiopian. He's going to be looking to see if he can keep up with his championship-winning teammate for the day. See if he can produce anything there to be there for his teammate. The Mercedes there getting out of the way. Hopefully didn't hold him up. And Bile comes through the final corner here. This could be a P4 or a P5, maybe P3. Let's see. It's P8 for the Ethiopian. So maybe he did get held up ever so slightly. Van Gelder jumps to P15. That's not a competitive lap time, you would think. Let's take one of the Saubers here, coming into the pits. Both of them for now. So a bit of action out on track. The first lap times have been set by the majority of the drivers. We see Van Gelder there spinning, or half spinning. Let's see. Let's see indeed. At the moment, only 4 drivers remaining who haven't set a lap time yet, and that is obviously Koivuniemi, Brito, Russo and Smith at the moment. I think Brito, he's on a fast lap, but he has invalidated, unfortunately. Meanwhile, Russo and Smith are sitting in the pits still. As Jerome improves the fastest lap time to a 1:26.8. So he's nearly 1 second faster than Jensen Randall at the moment. See if we can find the Briton. He's still in the pits. Cut back to Alexei Koivuniemi. He's about to start a flying lap, it would seem. Let's see what the Finn can do here. Let's actually jump on board with him on this flying lap. See what a lap of Sakir International Circuit looks like. So going into turn 1, you're barreling with your DRS open, heavy braking zone. And he just hits the apex, that's very good. And then this traction zone through 2 and 3, going up to turn 4. And here you want to clip the apex. You want to be very careful here on exit, not to track extend too far. And then this fast, loses the car there, Koivuniemi, but keeps it. And then doesn't really hit the apex there. It's a bit of a sloppy middle sector so far. It's not the best. And then this heavy braking zone downhill is very tricky because you're braking and turning at the same time. Second DRS straight on this lap. Then we're heading uphill. We have this left-hander here that continues forever, it almost feels like. And then this fast right-hander where you don't want to touch that inside curb. And then this very, very tricky... he cuts the corner there, Koivuniemi, unfortunately. But that is basically what it looks like when you're trying to go for a lap. It's very tricky around here. David Russo making his way out on track now. It's the Romanian looking to potentially post a lap time here. He's one of 4 people, as I said earlier, who hasn't posted a lap time yet. I do wonder if we are seeing anyone who are improving at the moment. Venting has invalidated his flying attempt, so that's not going to be bettered by any stretch of the imagination right now. Comes through the final corner. Does he head to the pits or does he go for another attempt? He goes for another attempt here, the Dutchman. He has one of the V-Carps, it would seem. Sorry, that's one of the Haas. That's the Haas driver in front of him, Jack Ridge. So he's going to be very careful here not to get dirty air through the middle sector especially. But if he has timed this perfectly, he might be able to get a bit of a slipstream going into the final sector. Anyway, through turn 4, he's invalidated again, the Dutchman. He's not doing too well for himself here. Meanwhile, let's see... as he destroys the board here. Falsaresi is going on to a flying lap here. Let's see what the Italian can do. Had a very good race last time out. In general, Williams had a pretty decent weekend in Australia, and hopefully they can kind of replicate that here. currently sitting in P5. Luke Smith hasn't posted a lap time yet. So let's see what Falsaresi can do here. It's not the fastest first sector. Bit of a tank slapper there coming through that previous corner. And then this downhill here. Oh, bit of a lock up there. And as he goes on to the second DRS straight, I think we might have a couple of drivers improving their lap times right now. Yeah, potentially not. Maybe not. After all. Anyway, Falsaresi, he's 1.5 seconds off. I don't know whether that is from the current fastest lap time or if that is from his previous fastest lap time. But let's see. At the moment, he's heading to the pits. Let's cut to George Wilkes in P7. The Briton at the moment preparing for a flying lap. Although the man behind him, I'm a little bit more... He's also heading to the pits. Anyway, David Russo, the other Aston Martin, he has invalidated his lap time. Interesting. What about Jerome Adamaco? At the moment, he is the fastest guy out on track. A purple first sector. Oh, but he runs very wide there and he invalidates as well. Meanwhile, Luke Smith and Alexei Koivuniemi, the only two drivers who haven't posted a flying lap time yet. They're both out on track. And Luke Smith looks to have invalidated his first attempt. Williams on top indeed. They look to be doing quite well, as a matter of fact. So hopefully we can see Smith at least be with his teammate here in qualifying. Let's see what the Australian can do. Had a bit of a horror show in his first showing last week, but hopefully he can put that behind him and maybe even be up there with his teammate this time around. Let's see, into turn 1. Looks pretty decent. Doesn't cut any corners here, so that looks solid. Going up towards turn 4. Doesn't run it wide. Tim Venting, it seems. Oh, sorry, that's David Russo improves to P3. So it's a 3 and 4 for Aston Martin right now. And Luke Smith with decent first sector, it would seem. Looks to have a little bit of trouble with getting the power down in that Williams. So maybe he's finding it a bit tricky here. Anyway. Oh, look at the twitching on that rear end. Doesn't look very planted to me, but then again, what do I know? Freya Billet. No, sorry, that was not Freya Billet. That was Alexei Koivuniemi improving to P10. So his first lap time is good enough for the top 10. Very good from the Finn. Let's see what Luke Smith can do through the last couple of corners here. Coming in towards the final corner. He wants to get a good traction out of this. And maybe he can be within the top 10. Who knows? But what's it going to be for the Williams driver? It's good enough for P10. So he bumps Koivuniemi down. So he slots in between the two Alpines. Meanwhile, Max Mulder, he's currently in the pits. Koivuniemi might be on his way as well. Back to the pits. Let's see. Ooh, there's a bit of mistake there. Don't know if there was contact there from the Red Bull driver. That looked a bit spicy. Meanwhile, Nick van Gelder heading back into the pits. Dion Stahl currently in the pits as well. Let's cut to Jack Ridge, because we haven't spoken a whole lot about him. He's fairly new to the league as well, so that this is his debut race. He is a reserve, and hopefully for his sake he can do pretty well here. And it was set to have both himself and Robin Herstadhagen compete for Haas, as we have seen. Oh, wow. I don't know if there's been technical issues with both the Mercedes and the McLaren, but both Aramako and Randall have retired from qualifying. So they have locked their lap times in. The 1:26.6 from Aramako and the 1:27.1 from Randall. They are the final lap times that we're going to see from those two drivers. It'll be interesting to see if anyone can best them. But anyway, let's see what Jack Rich can do in the Haas here. See, he's currently sitting P14 in front of another returning driver. We have a lot of those in this season, and that is Louis Quinlan in P15 in the Kick Sauber. So very interesting there. But let's see, Jack Rich, very big lockup into turn 1 there. Not what he would have wanted. That doesn't help with the tire wear throughout the lap. And Luke Smith as well has retired. I don't know whether that is out on track or in the pits. Interesting. Jack Rich improves by 1.5 tenths on his previous lap time, so that's pretty decent. Now he's coming through this very, very tricky middle sector. Looks to have it under control though. There's a yellow flag here for slow moving cars, and that would be probably George Wilkes as far as I am aware, if my memory serves me correct on driver numbers. But Jack Rich has had a fairly solid lap so far. It looks to improve his lap time. Qualifying is over, it would seem. We have 2.5 minutes remaining for drivers to post their lap times. Jack Rich is going to be the next driver across the line. Doesn't improve his position. What about Freya Bile? Improves to P10. George Wilkes and David Russo do improve their lap times, but they don't improve their position. Let's see if we can catch Dion Stahl here, coming through the final 2 turns. His teammate is onto the start-finish straight. So let's see what the Ferrari pairing can do. Dulis is heading into the pits, it would seem. So what can Stahl do here? He will ideally be looking to maybe be close to his teammate. Let's see what he can do. P14 from him, and Pablo Bas, the last driver who hasn't completed the lap time, cements P13 for himself. So that would be it for this qualifying session. As far as I can tell, everyone has finished. There we are. That is qualifying for the Bahrain Grand Prix. And Robin Herstadhagen popping into the live chat saying that he is unfortunately not able to race due to a power outage in Norway. And that is definitely unfortunately nothing he can do anything about. But pole position goes to Jerome Aramako. He is 2 tenths ahead of Jensen Randall, and then it is only a smidge of a gap down to David Russo, followed by Venting, Wilkes, Falsaresi, Samanidis, Dulis, Mulder, and Freya Bile rounds out the top 10 for this qualifying session. And standout performances has to go to Max Mulder. Very solid qualifying there from the Dutchman to put his Alpine into P9 in his first showing of the season, ahead of his teammate as well. So very, very solid from him. But points are not given out on a Saturday, or in this case in a qualifying session, because in our case they are actually given out on a Saturday, but they're given out for the race, which is what we are about to get into. And that is obviously 29 laps of pure racing around the Bahraini desert here at Sakir International Circuit. And there's a lot of support both for Theodoris Samanidis and Nicolo Falsaresi, and that is wonderful to see. A lot of support for the different drivers. We always love to see the engagement, so yeah, absolutely enjoy that. Absolutely. But here we go, on to the formation lap. As I said, Jerome Adamaco once again in pole position, but he has last season's champion Jenson Randall in that Papaya McLaren right behind him. And then we have last week's winner in P3 in the form of David Russo in the Aston Martin. And as if my prediction couldn't have gone any better, Tim Benting, the fourth and final man I predicted could be within a shout of a race victory for this Grand Prix. He's sitting in P4. Then we have George Wilkes in the other Aston Martin, doing very well for Aston. And then it is the Williams of Nicolo Falsaresi in P6. And the VCARB has... they have actually also done pretty well together with Williams. It is Samanidis in P7. And then the other Greek driver, Sandro Doulis, as we get the pit strategy here. So the game predicts a 2-stop strategy, potentially a 3-stop, which is what I also predicted. So I am taking that W. Meanwhile, Max Mulder, he'll be looking to take some points today, and he's done himself a huge favor by qualifying inside the top 10. So hopefully he can keep that position and maybe even improve upon it. Then it is Freya Bile in the other McLaren who rounds out the top 10. And we have Luke Smith down in P11. That's a little bit further down than he might have hoped for. But we have seen him in the past being capable of doing brilliant comeback drives. And then we have the other Alpine of Alexei Koivuniemi sitting in P12. Starting behind his teammate. Not ideal for his sake, but it is what it is. And we have Pablo Bas in the other VCARB, followed by Dion Stahl, and then the rookie Jack Rich in the Haas. Then we have Louis Quinlan returning once again. He's driving for Kick Sauber this weekend. And we have Ivan Brito in the other Mercedes, Nick van Gelder in the other Red Bull. And rounding out the grid for today's proceedings is going to be Season 2 champion, Alex Benaracetti in the Kick Sauber. But here we go. Here we go. So green flags are flying and the red lights are shining, and there they go out. Season 11's round 2 is underway. It's a good start for Adamaco, keeps P1 ahead of Jenson Randall. And it is David Russo's pressured by Tim Benting into turn 1. They're running side by side. And Russo gets ahead of Benting coming out of turn 2. But let's see what happens here. There's a bit of carnage going on behind. Oh no! We have a lot of carnage behind. It is a... is it a virtual? Is it a full safety car? I think it's a virtual. But Jack Rich didn't get very far. We saw it in the background. The Haas stranded, and there's a lot of carbon fiber. Louis Quinlan gets a time penalty. I don't know whether that is for speeding or if that is for other things. I have no idea, but there was a lot of carnage into turn 2 and 3, coming out of turn 3. This is just a virtual safety car. We see Freya Bile. Drive-through penalty for David Russo speeding under the virtual safety car. What is going on here? Oh, there's a lot of drivers that have picked up penalties here. And they might have got going a little too quickly. What has happened here? Meanwhile, Jerome Adamaco has actually lost the lead. I didn't even catch that. Tim Benting has made his way from P4 up to P1. I don't know how he's done that. But Jerome Adamaco, is that a drive-through penalty? Wait, hang on a minute. It is a drive-through penalty. Oh no! It's a drive-through penalty both for Jerome Adamaco and Jensen Randall, along with David Russo, and that's about it. Oh no! That's not what they would have hoped for. Meanwhile, Jerome Adamaco gets back into P1 ahead of Tim Venting. But this is pure carnage. This is pure carnage. I do not know what's happening. But we have a couple of drivers serving their pit penalties? I'm not sure. I have no idea, honestly. Meanwhile, we have a lot of movement in the midfield, it would seem. Let's have a look here. Samanidis sitting in P5, followed by Falsaresi, and then it is Max Mulder who's made up 2 positions from his starting spot. That would be due to potentially the people who already boxed. I'm not quite sure. A lot of carnage here. But 3 drivers getting the safety car restart all switched up. That's not what they would have hoped for. Meanwhile, in front of the Alpine here, we're seeing a battle for P5 at the moment between Falsaresi and Samanidis. We see Jensen Randall peeling into the pits there. Jerome Adamaco continues out in front. But Randall serves his stop and go. Or, no, sorry, it was a drive-through. We have a yellow flag in Sector 3. That might be for Benedicchetti. This menu is so difficult. He heads into the pits. He might have had a spin there. So not what he would have hoped for. Meanwhile, Adamaco out in front. He's going to have to serve that penalty. I think it's within 3 laps, potentially. So he might only have 2 laps to go to serve this penalty, and that's going to be huge news for Tim Venting, who's sitting right now in P2. He'll be taking over the lead, and he'll be leading from George Wilkes, who's pulling a bit of a train here. Samanidis slowly catching the Briton in front of him, and he's pulling along. Falsaresi, Max Mulder, and Sandro Dooley's capping the train with the other Alpine of Koivuniemi at the moment. So a very chaotic start here in Bahrain. Cut back to Samanidis here. There might be a couple of attacks lining up here going on to the start-finish straight. DRS has been activated. And saying that, Adamaco heads into the pits as expected. So we're going to see this is going to be a fight for P3 at the moment, as Falsaresi goes for the move on Samanidis. That's a straightforward dive down the inside. Samanidis tries to do the switchback. It doesn't really work. And going out of turn 3, Samanidis loses that position to Falsaresi. So Falsaresi up into P3 behind George Wilkes. There's a bigger gap in front of the Aston Martin going up to Tim Venting. So maybe Falsaresi right now is just looking to maybe, I don't know, maybe try and see if he can DRS train off George Wilkes. Maybe use him a little bit to save up some energy to maybe launch an attack on the Dutchman out in front. Because you can see the gap here is quite big actually. It's 3.5 seconds. And Falsaresi is already lining up George Wilkes for an overtake. I'm expecting that down the start-finish straight we're going to see the Williams blast past the Aston Martin in P2. But this is a bit of a curveball for pretty much the entirety of this race. Jensen Randall currently down in P13. Jerome Adamaco down in P11 right now behind his teammate Ivan Brito. As we go out on the start-finish straight, here comes Falsaresi. And with the DRS, there's not really anything that George Wilkes can do here. He's just going to be hoping for the second DRS going out of turn 3 towards turn 4. Samanidis closes up ever so slightly. So we see a move for P5 here as well. Sandro Dooley is losing a position to Max Mulder. So good driving from the Dutchman, actually. Oh, as he gets very close there, Dooley's to the rear end of the Alpine. And he's in an Alpine sandwich right now. So it'll be interesting to see if they are going to be trying to work together to improve the position of Koivuniemi as well. Meanwhile, Sandro Dooley is going to be hoping for help from his teammate, but he has his own things to look after. He has the two Mercedes drivers behind him, as he is trying to catch the Williams of Luke Smith at the moment. As Luke Smith gets a 3-second time penalty, that might be for track extending. As we see a swap for P10, Jerome Adamaco gets the position ahead of Ivan Brito. So very good teamwork there from Mercedes, it would seem. Meanwhile, we have a yellow flag in this corner right here. I don't really know why we have a yellow flag here. There's not really anything going on. Meanwhile, that's actually not who I wanted to cut to. I wanted to cut to Jensen Randall, who's sitting in a bit of a no man's land right now. We have a yellow flag in... Where do we have a yellow flag? Sector 3. I have no idea why we had a yellow flag. Anyway, cut back to the front here, or almost the front. Falsaresi has locked himself into that position, and he's slowly chipping away at Tim Venting's lead right now. It was 3.5 seconds. It's down to 2.7 now. So the Italian is slowly but surely working into that lead that the Red Bull driver has built himself. And he is obviously pulling George Wilkes along with him. Hasn't been able to break that DRS gap yet. He might just have done that now. Just about. As we see Pablo Bas retire in the pit lane. It's very unfortunate from the Spaniard. Not the way that he would have wanted to start his attack on Season 2. Or Season 11, sorry. That promotes Alex Benedicchetti into P17 at the moment. And that is why we have the yellow flags in Sector 3. That is because of the retiring car from Pablo Bas. Meanwhile, Falsaresi has broken the DRS gap to George Wilkes, so he can now start focusing on the man in front of him. Be very interesting to see what he can do. Meanwhile, Samanidis has to look in his mirrors now. Both the Alpines have made it past the Ferrari of Sandro Dooley's, and they are now hunting down the V-Carb of Samanidis. Let's see what Max Mulder can do here. Max Mulder has a lot of good pace here, it would seem. Has a good pace. And has the DRS on the Greek driver in front of him. And could Mulder potentially, if he dispatches off Samanidis quite quickly, potentially be looking at a podium? Not to jinx anything, but that is just how it is. At the moment, it would seem that it has stabilized ever so slightly. He's in the DRS at the moment. It's not too bad. Oh, Jensen Randall has had a power cut, it would seem. That's not very good. Hopefully he can make it back. Otherwise, do tell us on the live chat and we will see what we can do, Mr. Randall. We will see what we can do. Tim Venting picks up a 3-second time penalty. That is not what he would have wanted right now. The gap is slowly coming down behind him. It's down to 2.5 at the moment. So right now, virtually, Falsaresi is sitting in the virtual race lead. Meanwhile, we see the fight for P4 continuing here. Samanidis able to hold station against Max Mulder. As we see... Who was that? It's Russo and Randall going at it. Who is this going to be who comes out on top? Randall pulls in behind the Aston Martin. He concedes the position. He's down to P13 at the moment. It's not very good for his championship defense at the moment. Meanwhile, Jerome Adamaco, after that drive-through penalty, is looking at the back of Dulis' Ferrari here. You would be thinking that he would be making short notice of him. That's at least what he's hoping that he can do. There goes the Mercedes, and he is well past and into P7. And now the hunt is set for the two Alpines in front of him. The first one being Alexei Koivuniemi at the moment in P6. A bit of a gap, to be honest, to his teammate in front of him, Max Mulder, who is well and truly latched himself onto the back of the V-Carb. As we see, it doesn't look like he's going aggressively for that overtaking opportunity, the Dutchman. Biding his time, being very mature about it here. It's very good driving, to be honest. And from a man who didn't score any points last season, came very close in the last race to scoring a singular point. This would be a great start to his campaign in season 11 if he could keep this position all the way to the finish, maybe even improve it. Be very good for Max Mulder. As we see, he is lining it up. Samanidis is slowly feeling the pressure, it seems. But he is capable of keeping Mulder behind him where it is important, which is on the straights, where it doesn't seem like Mulder has the same top speed as the V-Carb in front of him. We have a yellow flag in Sector 3. That is Freya Bile retiring at the end of his day here. Very unfortunate for the Ethiopian. Not the race he would have wanted. I think that was... who was that who picked up a 3-second time penalty? That must have been Dion Stahl down in P10 at the moment. It's definitely not what he would be looking to hope for. Meanwhile, we have a couple of pit stops happening out in front. Tim Benting and Falsaresi both going into the pits. Let's see what the Williams crew can do here. Meanwhile, Benting stays well ahead of Falsaresi. And they are going to come out right... Ooh, Benting might actually be very close. He slots ahead of Dion Stahl here. Although the Ferrari driver has the warm tires, it doesn't look like he's going to be able to do anything. It's a very solid stop there from the Red Bull crew. Meanwhile, Max Mulder still hasn't made anything of Samanidis at the moment. And it also seems... I'm not quite sure if Adamaco also made a pit stop. And Ridge in the live chat saying, what a debut. Yeah, it's very unfortunate. We did catch it in the background, the Haas spinning out on lap 1 on that start. That is just what happens sometimes, unfortunately, and we are sure that you will come back even stronger for the next race. As Louis Quinlan picks up a 3-second time penalty, it seems like they are battling quite hard here for P14. He's battling with Nick van Gelder at the moment. These two obviously have a rich history together, as George Wilkes now heads into the pits. Let's see what the Aston Martin team can do here. He will be hoping that he could... Nah, it doesn't look like it. As Falsaresi makes it past Dion Stahl into turn 1. So the overcut didn't exactly work for Wilkes. But he obviously has 1 lap fresher tires now than the Italian in front of him. So maybe he can use that to his advantage. Meanwhile, Jerome Adamaco He is slowly being caught by Jensen Randall, it seems. Luke Smith picks up a 3-second time penalty. Track extending, I would imagine. And these two, they haven't really been separated since lap 1. And unfortunately, it's down in P10 and 9 respectively right now between Randall and Adamako because of that drive-through at the start. Let's see, at the moment it is Max Mulder who leads the Grand Prix. He's made it past Samanides. We completely missed that. Ivan Brito picks up a 3-second time penalty. It'll be interesting to see what the strategy from the Alpine team here is. He continues for another lap. Meanwhile, Samanides behind him boxes. And that means that Alexei Koivuniemi in P2 at the moment is a 1-2 for Alpine. So very, very decent as we see Falsaresi posting the fastest lap time of this Grand Prix. He has closed up Tim Venting significantly on this lap. Venting on the hard tires compared to Falsaresi's medium tires. Let's actually have a look at the tires here. Both of the Alpines on mediums at this stage as Falsaresi slightly overshoots turn 4 due to the dirty air. We can see Venting and... Oh, Falsaresi picks up a time penalty there. That's not very good. That is going to make things a little bit more difficult for him. He's hoping that maybe... Oh, who's this? We have... That would be Dion Stahl who has spun it. Coming out of turn... That's probably going to be turn 6. But Falsaresi picking up a 3-second time penalty does make things a little bit more difficult for him. But looking at it right now, Venting as well has a penalty to his name. So this is still for position, this battle. And the man in front of Venting at the moment, it is the teammate of Falsaresi. It's Luke Smith, who's currently in P3. So Smith is entitled to battle as hard as he wished to do. And maybe, just maybe, we might see some team play here as Falsaresi goes for the move on Venting. Manages to get well ahead of him before turn 1. That's a great overtake. We can see Smith there is missing his front right end plate. And I do imagine, yeah, exactly. Teamwork makes the dream work. And Falsaresi, as Luke Smith does make the corner a little bit difficult for Venting. My bad. As we see, Max Mulder has now pitted. He has ended up behind Samanides again. That's very unfortunate from the Dutchman. And Koivuniemi is the only one of the top 3 that hasn't boxed yet. But Falsaresi makes it ahead of Tim Venting for the virtual Grand Prix lead. So when Koivuniemi inevitably boxes, the Italian is going to be taking over at the front of this race. I do wonder, not to disregard the skill set that Falsaresi has, but I do wonder if there is maybe some damage to that Red Bull. I'm not saying that's the reason why he's not able to just streak away, but we have seen Team Venting be very, very dominant in the past as Koivuniemi boxes, and that releases these two into the race lead. So lap 14, Nicolo Falsaresi takes the race lead, Venting very closely behind, but they are fighting for position. And at the moment it is George Wilkes in P3. And maybe looking to go to the end on those hard tires. Who knows? Then it is Jerome Adamako, who's made a very, very solid comeback, you would say. He's up to P4. And behind him is Samanides, who's currently watching his mirrors, because the Alpine of Max Mulder. We have a battle for P7 between Sandro Dulis and Alexei Koivuniemi. Koivuniemi does... He has to slot in behind the Greek Ferrari driver. for now. But you would imagine those 3 laps that Dulis has done on those hard tires, it is going to play into Koivuniemi's hand later on. And then we have Luke Smith in P9 and David Russo, who's also made a pretty decent comeback so far this race. And then we have Dion Stahl going very wide there in the middle sector. Very scary. If you catch the curb a little bit incorrectly, you could end up losing it completely. Then we have Jensen Randall, who's all the way down in P12. So at this stage of the season, he wouldn't even be scoring points, which is very, very odd to say. And then in P13 we have Nick van Gelder, and then we have the pairing of Kick Saubers led by Alex Benedicchetti ahead of Louis Quinlan, and then rounding out the current running order is Ivan Brito in the other Mercedes, who runs a little bit wide there. Oh dear. And then we have 3 retirements in the form of Freya Pile, Pablo Baz and Jack Rich. But the fight out in front continues. They are all alone at the moment, and Falsaresi able to keep venting behind for now. So he's doing a very solid job. A big lock up there from the Italian. But you have to ask yourself whether or not he's definitely going to have to box again, because he's on mediums and they're not going to be able to go the distance. I'm not even going to try and do that math. That's going to be too tricky. Nick van Gelder boxes, so that releases the Kick Saubers. But yeah, there's quite a few laps to go. I think it's like 13 laps. I don't do math. But yeah, 13 laps to go. Mediums are not going to last that long. Definitely not. So you would be looking at potentially at a 2-stop for Falsaresi, and then the question becomes, what does Tim Venting have planned? We see him sitting behind for now. Doesn't go on the attack. He's doing a very solid job. Luke Smith picks up another 3-second time penalty. It's not the best for himself. Let's have a look here. Might be a battle still going on around here. For P5, Samanides retook that position under the pit stops. Max Mulder seems like he is not really doing anything right now. Dooley's managing to stay ahead of Koivuniemi as well, but you can see the fin he is. He's sitting right in his slipstream, just waiting for a mistake. Very interesting to see how that ends. The same with this battle. The Alpines have looked really solid today, you have to say. So very, very good. Very, very solid race from both of them, and they will be hoping that they can keep this going throughout the entire season, because they are wonderful drivers, both of them. And, you know, saying that Max Mulder didn't score any points last season, it doesn't do him justice at all, because he is definitely a driver. When he is on form, he is capable of fighting for top positions, for sure, for sure. And is it going to be now from Tim Venting? No, it isn't. He just stays behind. He's waiting for that mistake, or is he just waiting for the tire wear to hit Falsaresi? We have a yellow flag in Sector 2. That might just be for Alex Benedicchetti having a half spin, so nothing too serious. We have a fight here for P3. Jerome Adamaco making his way past George Wilkes. This has been a solid comeback drive from the German. He's really done his work here today. It's been super, super racing from him. The question is, it's only 8.5 seconds to Tim Venting. Is there a potential for a completely bonkers result here? It would be very interesting, to say the least, if Adamaco was able to fight his way back to the front after what happened on lap 1. but we will see. Van Gelder makes it past Benedicchetti, and that is due to the kick-sauber boxing. So nothing hair racing going on there. Meanwhile, I do wonder, are we going to see an overtake here soon between these two? They've been running side by, well, nose to tail, should we say, not side by side, but nose to tail the whole race almost. Samanides makes his way onto... No, he doesn't. He tricked me, did he? Just cutting off the slipstream, it would seem. I almost thought he went into the pits there, but that was not the case. Max Mulder closing up like crazy in that braking zone. And is he starting to move? One driver who's moving is Alexei Koivaniemi. He's made it past Sandro Dulis for P7. And it will be interesting to see whether the Finn can close up to his teammate and maybe do a little bit of teamwork like we saw earlier in the Grand Prix to maybe dispose of Samanides. That is definitely not out of the question. Meanwhile, out in front, Ventink, he hasn't blinked yet in terms of either a move or pitting or whatever it would be. There's not really anything going on here. But at the moment, Nicolo Falzaresi holding station against, well, one of the drivers who was shouted out to potentially be the man who could challenge Adamaco and Randall for the championship. So he's doing a very solid job, the Williams driver, right now. We have 11 laps to go, 10 laps once we make it around this lap. We've started lap 19. And in all honesty, it's been a fairly clean race. If we do look at it from that perspective. Not a lot of contact, there was the start, but the start in each Grand Prix is always chaotic. And I definitely do think that this has been one of the more cleaner affairs that we have seen in SRL history. So it's very good to see. Meanwhile, Jerome Adamaco slowly but surely reeling in the front two at the moment. He's doing a good job here. The German might be getting the DRS from... that will be Alex Benedicchetti, as the blue flags are flying for the kick-sauber. He's going to have to move out of the way pretty quickly, otherwise he's going to be penalized. And no biggie there. He lost a little bit of time, Adamaco. It wasn't too bad. Van Gelder picks up a 3-second time penalty. As we see, Falzaresi is pitting. That was to be expected with the medium tires. They wouldn't go the distance, is what I would be thinking. There's 9. We've started the... well, this is going to be the 9th to last lap. Where does he filter out? He filters out behind. Oh, he spins! Oh no! I almost said it. He filtered out behind Mulder and Samanides. He's lost it on pit exit, and he's fallen behind Dulis and Koivaniemi now as well. And that has definitely lost him a lot of time. I don't think he touched the opposite wall, so I think he escaped with just a scare right there. But that is not what he would have wanted. And does this mean now that we're going to see Tim Venting just control this race all the way to the end? Or does he go for that pit stop? He's been 10 laps on those tires, same as Jerome Adamaco behind him. The question is, when do those tires go off? What is the tire wear like for the Dutchman at the moment? Well, he takes another tour of the Sakir International Circuit. So tire wear isn't dire yet, it would seem. Meanwhile, Samanidis still keeping Mulder behind him. And the Dutchman must be... he must be tired of looking at that rear wing of the V-carb at the moment. He definitely knows where to go if he wants to have an affordable way to handle his money, because that Cash App sponsorship is going to be engraved into his mind after this race. As we see, Falsaresi makes it past Dooley's, so he makes quick work of the Greek driver. He's bolted on the hard tyres yet again, which is interesting. We have a yellow flag in sector 2. That might be for Ivan Brito. And it is as well. It's gone away. Just a half spin, I would imagine, coming out of that hairpin. Falsaresi now looking at the back of Alexei Koivuniemi's Alpine. And he will be hoping to make short work of this overtake. And he gets the DRS. He's already within DRS, so this should be short work down the start-finish straight. Question is, are we going to see any more pit stops that are planned? Or is this just going to be it? Falsaresi having to work his way through the grid. And bear in mind, these people that he is overtaking right now, they do not have penalties as well. So not only does he have to overtake them, but he also has to draw at least a 3-second gap to each overtake that he produces. But here we go. It goes past Koivuniemi. That wasn't really a fight, if we're being honest. And the hunt is now on for the second Alpine. It runs a little bit deep into turn 1. That's not going to do him any favors. He's had a solid race so far. To see, that would be David Russo making an overtaking attempt on Luke Smith for P9. Russo goes for the overtake. Ooh, it was very close from the Aston Martin. Doesn't get the position. And Russo is currently on 11 lap old hard tyres. Luke Smith gets a penalty. They keep it clean so far. Are we going to see a dive bomb into the downhill here? It's on the outside. That's not going to work. He tries to go for the Alonso. That doesn't really work. You want to say he has to slot in behind the Australian again. So a lot of drivers here that you would be thinking which should be running at the front, they haven't had the best of days. Jensen Randall doesn't look like he's going to be scoring points in today's Grand Prix. Meanwhile, Jerome Aramako, the only real front candidate who hasn't made a total mess out of it. He isn't just within shooting distance of Tim Venting just yet. Venting, we have to look at that penalty though, because Venting does hold the penalty as Louis Quinlan picks up a 3-second time penalty. Cut back to Falsaresi. He's closed the gap to 4.1 seconds to Max Mulder in front. And Mulder at the moment still staring at the back of the V-carb of Samanidis. But they have actually... oh, that was a different green car. I thought they had closed up to George Wilkes. That was just the rear end of Alex Benedicetti's Sauber that I saw. But I saw a green flash and I thought it was him. We can see Falsaresi slowly closing the gap. But the laps are running out as well. See a move here. For P11 wasn't really a move. I think Dion Stahl might just have boxed, and that was the reason why. So not too bad. At the moment, we're looking at these penalties. Tim Benting has a 3-second time penalty. So in reality, Jerome Adamako only has to close a 3.5 second gap to get that race victory. As we see, is this going to be the time for Max Mulder That straight line speed doesn't seem to be there in the Alpine. The V-Carb is just capable of keeping it planted in a straight line. He just pulls a gap on the Dutchman behind him. But it's going to have to be soon for Max Mulder. Falsaresi is slowly approaching from behind. It's 2.1 seconds now, the gap. Maybe he is just waiting for Falsaresi to inevitably overtake both of these guys and maybe slide past Samanides in the process. Who knows? Maybe he is thinking outside of the box here, the Dutchman. Let's see what he can do. Falsaresi has closed the gap to 1.2 seconds now. So he is very much there now, and he's going to be getting DRS down the start-finish straight next time we come past there. So it will be interesting to see what he can do. This is definitely not the way he would have wanted it to go. Quinlan picks up another 3-second time penalty. And Falsaresi now will have the DRS going down the start-finish straight. So this will be interesting. Let's see what happens here. Does Max Mulder overtake Samanides and Falsaresi just slides past? Here comes Falsaresi. This is going to be an easy overtake. But he's going to have to be careful. Oh, he dives it in! He dives it in on the V-Carb, and that is definitely not what he would have hoped for. Oh, did he pick up a little bit of damage? Who knows? Falsaresi gets stuck behind Samanides. Yeah, this is not what he would have hoped for. He would have hoped to dispatch of these two drivers pretty quickly. Brito picks up a 3-second time penalty. Oh, big snap there from Falsaresi. He's driving the wheels off that Williams at the moment. But he doesn't get the overtake on the V-Carb, and that's going to slow his attack on the drivers in front. Does he go for it now? He does. Samanides relegated to P. Oh, no! Something went wrong there for Falsaresi. Was that an illegal overtake, potentially? Who knows? But he lets Samanides pass again. And what is going to happen here? Max Mulder is going to have a double slipstream going down the start-finish straight. We have seen how fast that Williams can be in a straight line. Samanides goes to cover the inside. It's not really anything that matters, if anything. Oh, we see a big move there from Samanides. Falsaresi does a double lock-up on the front. I think he might have got the overtake done. Let's see, does Samanides throw one to the inside? He actually does, to be fair. This is a great little scrap we have here. Oh, there's a bit of contact there between the two. Samanides loses the position, and is he now vulnerable to Max Mulder behind him? Luke Smith posts the fastest lap. It doesn't count for anything, though, other than shows that he has good pace. But that was very close between Samanides, and he has picked up a little bit of damage on the front left end plate. It's been knocked off by Falsaresi, and is this going to be what undoes his entire race and lets Max Mulder overtake him in the dying laps? Let's have a look here. We've seen the V-Carb be very capable going down the straights, and he unfortunately is not going to have the DRS on Falsaresi, because Falsaresi has pulled a gap instantly to the two drivers behind. But the corners are going to be very tricky for Samanides until the end. Does Max Mulder go for it now? Oh, he thinks about it, but he doesn't go for the overtake. You can just see how unstable that V-Carb gets on traction. It doesn't have the grip. And what now? Max Mulder. Do we see the overtake? Benedicchetti picks up a 3-second time penalty. So the bottom half of the grid all have penalties, except for Jensen Randall. Oh, Mulder gets very close to the diffuser of Samanides. Is this going to be an overtake around the outside? No, he doesn't dare to do that. Very mature driving from Mulder here. Just waiting and seeing where the V-Carb driver is vulnerable. This is solid driving right now. So it's very, very good. You can see how Samanides is suffering through the corners. Quinlan picks up a 10-second time penalty for ignoring blue flags. Oh my. And he's going to be on quite the amount of penalties. It's very unfortunate for him. And what do we see now? Max Mulder mounting that curb. The last curb. You can see how close he's capable of getting through the traction zones. And what now? Does he try the overtake this time? Does he send it? No, he doesn't. He is very patient today, Max Mulder. Quinlan picks up another time penalty. Oh, look at the traction from the Alpine. Just able to plant his throttle a little bit earlier than the V-Carb due to the superior downforce levels. This is very solid driving from both of these guys. Mulder for very, very mature driving and very mature attacking. Ooh, gets very close there though. And Samanides for a very, very solid defense that he's putting up right now. But this is also for P10 and potentially 10 points. Oh, sorry, not P10, P5. It's 10 points at this stage of this race. So it is very important for these drivers. And I do wonder, are we just going to wait and see Max Mulder pull ahead on the last lap of the race? Tim Venting has started the final lap of this Grand Prix. But we are watching the fight for P5 at the moment. Doing a very solid job right now, these two. And you do wonder, oh, he runs into the back of him there. Max Mulder gets the superior traction. We've seen it all race. He has the traction, but Samanides has the top speed. And what is going to come off this? Is Max Mulder finally going to send one to the inside? No. Not quite yet, but I do wonder. This traction zone, he gets the drive. He gets past Samanides, and he takes P5 away from the V-Carb driver. Very, very solid driving from Max Mulder. Very solid. But the man who is going to be taking the biggest prize here today is going to be this man. He has led pretty much from lap 3 and onwards. He was the only one of the top 4 who didn't pick up a drive-through penalty under the virtual safety car. And he has profited massively from it here today. Adamaco behind. He's not quite within striking distance of that penalty. So today's honours goes to Red Bull, and Tim Venting takes the victory here in Bahrain. Jerome Adamaco comes home in a brilliant P2. What a comeback drive. And then it is George Wilkes in P3. Followed closely by Nicolo Falsaresi, who had everything to play for, but not quite the strategy to do it today. And Max Mulder picks up P5 today, followed by Samanides and Alexei Koivuniemi in P7. Sandro Dulis comes home in a P8. He's going to be very disappointed with that. Even though it is 4 points, he's going to be disappointed. And we have a battle here for P9. David Russo goes to the inside of Luke Smith. I do wonder how the penalties are going to play out, though. I don't think it's going to matter for Luke Smith. It doesn't, because Russo is in P9, Luke Smith in P10, and Jensen Randall, the man we thought we would be seeing on the top step, or at least on the podium, comes home to finish P11. He gets promoted to P10 due to penalties for Smith. So that is very unfortunate for Luke Smith. And Dion Stahl, he's going to come home to finish P12. But what a race from Tim Benting out here today. He's done absolutely brilliantly. But in my opinion, driver of the day, it has to go to Max Mulder. What a drive from the Dutchman. And in general, Alpine played this to perfection. And there we have today's winner, Tim Benting, top step of the podium. As I said, Jerome Adamako with a comeback drive of the century, I would say. And then we have George Wilkes in a very, very respectable P3. This is your podium finishers. But remember, guys, these results are only provisional. There could be changes due to penalties post-race. So, as always, head over to Instagram and make sure that you are followed. It is @SRL_F1. And you will be able to see all of the potential updated finishing positions. But provisional race results, if it actually decides to load, that would be very, very lovely. It does not want to load. This is very lovely. I love this game. Very nice. Very nice. Anyway, Tim Benting wins from Adamako and George Wilkes, and then it is Falsaresi in P4, followed by Max Mulder in P5, who definitely, in my opinion, if there was a man to vote for driver of the day, it would be Max Mulder for sure. Definitely. For sure, Max Mulder today. And what a race. It wasn't as chaotic, I want to say, as the first round we had in Australia, but this was definitely one of the more, what should we call it, civilized rounds. We had good overtakes, we had clean racing, and I think in general it was just a beautiful, beautiful race. So if you've enjoyed it, I would highly suggest that you consider subscribing and liking the live stream. It shows that you actually enjoyed it. And as I said, head over to Instagram, make sure that you follow us at SRL_F1. And apparently, I have been told to say this, we are also now on TikTok. So I don't know how TikTok works, but you figure it out. We are apparently on TikTok, if that is something that interests you. But that has been round 2, and wow, what a race. What a race. And definitely not, I would say definitely not the race winner that I was expecting. I was expecting either Jerome Adamako or Jensen Randall, but I was proven wrong. So there we go. But I don't even know what to say. It's left me speechless once again. My name has been Sam, and I've been your commentator today. I've absolutely enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time out, which I will just quickly figure out when and where it is. If we hang on for a second, I will quickly have a look. Let's see. It is next week, actually. But it is the GT3 series that comes back. So October 11th, we have the 2.4 hours of Spa. That is round 4 of the GT3 series. And the next Formula 1 Grand Prix is the United States Grand Prix, October 18th. So if you don't want to miss that, I would highly suggest that you, as I said, subscribe, like, and make sure you follow us on Instagram. But that is going to do it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. My name is Sam. I've been your commentator. And until we see each other again, have a brilliant day and just enjoy yourself. Goodbye.